morning, everybody. It is Friday, October 2nd. We made it through week number 5 of virtual learning. We've only got a couple more, and then hopefully I get to see your all's faces in person. All right, today we're going to finish off Apple Week with a book about Amelia Bedelia and her first apple pie. Raise your hand if you have ever made an apple pie with anybody. If you haven't, you should try it out sometime. It's really yummy. Amelia Bedelia's first apple pie. Amelia Bedelia was visiting her grandparents. It was a glorious autumn afternoon, the perfect day to rake leaves into piles and run around the yard. These pictures are a lot of fun. They're very colorful and fall-like. Fall is in the air, said Granddad. Granddad and Amelia looked up. So are the birds. VW, what are they trying to spell? Just then, Amelia Bedelia's grandma came outside. Quick, said Granddad, look busy. But it was too late. Hey, lazy bones, Grandma said. If you're just going to stand around, I've got a job for you. What do you need, Granddad asked. Apples, said Grandma. I made pie dough. If you'll get some apples, I can teach Amelia how to bake a pie. Grandma's apple pie was Amelia's favorite. Hooray, she yelled. Race ye to the car. She started to run but tripped over a branch and landed right in a pile of leaves. Fall is in the air and on the ground too. Granddad smiled and said, watch your step. Amelia tried to watch her steps, but it made her dizzy, looking down at her feet all the time. Amelia Bedelia and Granddad were in the car when Grandma called out, be sure to pick up Granny Smith. Who's Granny Smith? Is she helping us make the pie? Amelia asked. You bet, Granddad said, and we couldn't do it without her. Amelia and Granddad drove out into the country. Your supermarket is far away, said Amelia. We aren't going to the supermarket, said Granddad. We'll get our apples at the farmer's market. What? Asked Amelia. Do we need to buy a farmer? No, said Granddad. Their apples are just much fresher. Apples are good for me, right? Asked Amelia. Oh, yes, said Granddad. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. They're good for your teeth, too. Folks call them nature's toothbrush. Hey, Granddad, said Amelia. If I eat an apple a day, I won't have to go to the doctor or the dentist ever? I wish it worked that way, he said. Granddad picked up a bright green apple, polished it on his jacket, and tossed it to Amelia. Nice catch, he said. Meet Granny Smith. Amelia took a loud, crunchy bite. Granny is yummy, she said. Bushel baskets overflowed with red, yellow, orange, pink, and green apples. Some apples were stripes or spots or splotches. The colors reminded Amelia of autumn. While Granddad chose apples to buy, Amelia read the names out loud. One kind was called Delicious, but they all looked tasty to her. When they got home, Grandma went right to working, coring, and peeling the apples. Excuse me. Amelia measured the peels to see which one was the longest. Grandma cut each apple into 2 pieces, then into 4 pieces, and then into 8 pieces. Finally, she sprinkled sugar and cinnamon on the slices. Next, Grandma pulled out all of her pie pans, hunting for just the right one. Amelia found a tiny pan. Is this a toy, she asked. No, said Grandma, that is a real pie pan. It's just really small. Here's the one I want. Now please get the flour, Sugar Plum. Amelia spied a small flower on the windowsill, and she picked it. Here you go, Grandma, she said. Thanks, sweetie, said Grandma. Then she showed Amelia where she kept the flour for baking. Mrs. Dillon's throat's dry today. Grandma rolled out the dough. It got flatter and thinner. It got rounder and bigger. Grandma said, "Careful, watch your fingers." Amelia took her hands off the table and she watched her fingers. They looked pretty boring. She wondered why she had to do this to make the apple pie. Now we need a sprinkle of flour, said Grandma. Amelia reached into the sack of flour, grabbed a handful, and sprinkled it all over their heads. Not on us, she said, on the dough. Amelia's making a mess. At last, said Grandma, we're ready to put this pie together. And that's exactly what Grandma and Amelia did. Then Grandma popped the pie into the oven, set the timer, and started to clean up the kitchen. That's when Amelia had an idea. She took the leftover dough and rolled out 2 small circles. She put one in the little pie pan, filled it with extra apples, and plopped the other circle on top. Then she crimped the edge all around. A smidgen of dough was left, so she made a little flower, a tiny daisy to decorate the top. This is a long book, isn't it? Your mom and dad will be here soon, said Grandma. Then we'll have a pie party. Yippee, said Amelia. Granddad heard the commotion and came into the kitchen. What are we celebrating, he said. Honey, Amelia made her first apple pie. Look at it, teensy tiny right there. After Grandma took her pie out of the oven, Amelia carefully and secretly hid hers. I'm going to set this outside to cool, said Grandma. It was time to get ready for the party. Grandma hummed as she set the table. Soon, Granddad was whistling the same tune. Outside, the birds were chirping and tweeting like mad. Listen, said Amelia. It sounds like the birds are having a party. My pie, said Grandma. They all ran outside. The pie was covered with birds. Scream, hollered Grandma. Shoo, shoo. Our pie, said Amelia. It's gone, said Grandma. So the birds got to the pie. Just then, Amelia and Bedelias' parents arrived. Amelia's dad stared at the empty pie pan. Gee, he said, couldn't you wait for us? The birds ate our pie, said Amelia. What birds? I think they were swallows, said Granddad. They sure are, said Amelia. They swallowed the whole thing. Well, sweetheart, said Amelia's mother, let's imagine how good it would have tasted, and we'll eat our ice cream. The whole family tried to enjoy the ice cream and not think about the pie, but that was impossible. We made the best pie, said Amelia. It was a thing of beauty, said Grandma. It would have been delicious. It was a perfect pie, said Amelia. She lowered her lip and she began to sob. That means cry. You know, said Amelia, Bedelias' father, just hearing you talk about that pie makes me think I can smell a fresh baked pie. My pie, said Amelia. She forgot about her little pie. They raced to the kitchen. Grandma took the tiny pie out of the oven and set it on the table. There it was, bubbling, hot, and baked to perfection. They all gathered around and gazed at it as though it were a brand new baby. It's absolutely perfect. Just like Grandma's, only smaller, said Amelia. You made it all by yourself, said Grandma. This time, let's let the pie cool down in the house, Grandpa said. It's not going to be very much pie to eat, is it? No one could wait. Grandma cut tiny pieces for everyone. She took one bite and declared, "This is the best apple pie I've ever tasted." Amelia's smile was so big that it was hard for her to eat. "Thank you, Grandma," she said. "And thank you, Granny." "Granny who?" said Mother. "Granny Smith," said Amelia. "She made all of our apples in the first place." The end. And at the end of the book, the author shared recipes for making an apple pie. All right, I hope you liked that one. It was just kind of a cute, fun little apple book. Hope you guys have a good day, and I hope you've enjoyed learning about all of the apple things this week. Have a good day, guys.